let's get into it. So dev1ce, we got a story coming out on this one where it is kind of like something that we've known in the backside. Well, it's not known, it's just speculation, and everybody's speculated so much, but it's like, oh, he's playing a lot of FPL games. He's playing a lot of online games. He's really getting the hours in, but we're not seeing him play any officials, and NIP aren't making any noise. NIP aren't making any noise about it. But Jackson has come out, Jackson.gg, they've come out with an article saying that according to sources now, so we're starting to get into it, where NIP have apparently started to try and shop dev1ce around for a 6-figure buyout fee, which reportedly is around, allegedly is around 600,000 is the number that's getting thrown around, which kind of lines up with...
It's very similar to what he probably was sold for in the first place, because we already covered that on by the numbers at the time. Basically, that $1 million you kept hearing in the press sounds like that was just a sexed up number, and actually it was probably more like just over half of that.
Yeah, just around 700. Or at least
what's mad, Semmler. I want to get your take on this, because I also discussed this actually. By the way, this was actually something I discussed also with Monty on the show yesterday, because I had a funny analogy that I won't go into now. Basically, if anyone knows that All-Star game thing last year where Kevin Durant refused to pick James Harden because at the time James Harden had demanded a trade and he was going to be traded to another team, right? So Kevin Durant, his teammate, was like, basically, like, if you're not going to play within my team, I'm not just letting you go to another team and picking you for the All-Star game. So anyway, my point was that's what it's like with dev1ce, right? Because here's the weird thing, Semmler. There is a take that is very popular in esports right now that I think is mad. And you know what the take is? This is the take, Semmler. It's like, well, who the fuck would possibly sign him? One, he'll just sit out, and B, do we even know he's good anymore? Those are real takes, bro.
Yeah. I actually have, to be fair, I actually have a little bit of a side, but it's not because whether he's good or not, because I think dev1ce is always going to be good. It's whether or not you can trust him. Because to me, this is one of those things where, like, there's so much that's weird about this whole NIP situation, how it all went down, and then this complete radio silence for both teams and players. There's the speculation as to what actually happened behind the scenes that led to this disaster of a scenario, and then the whole question after that is just kind of like, okay, do you trust dev1ce not only to bring the heat in the game, which I think it's fair to say you should be able to trust him to do that, but not to be reliable as a teammate. Or is this sort of thing going to happen again where he may not be reliable and you could go, because look at NIP, like, do you want to be an org in the future that's going to go down this path of putting it all out on the line the way NIP did, where they said, like, this is the biggest signing in history. They put their credit, they put their brand on the line, saying, like, listen, we're going to make moves, and we are really making moves now because we're picking up a 4-time major opera, like, this is a huge play from NIP, and it just completely blew up in their faces, and they're left looking like fools almost. Like, do you want to take that risk as an org by picking up dev1ce, or do you want to play it safe with somebody else? That's kind of where I was like, I'm not really sure what the lay of the land is here for dev1ce, and if that actually is a reason why we're not seeing him get snapped up immediately. Because if it's been months that they've been shopping him around, you'd think that a player of dev1ce's caliber, teams would be chomping at the bit to get him. But if he's not finding anybody, going into this major, like, it could very well mean that we don't see dev1ce for the rest of the year. Like, we just could, because the major cycle's coming up. Nobody's going to want to make big changes going into the major. And then you have a couple of tournaments after the major, and that's going to be it for the year. So it may very well be that we run out the rest of this year and dev1ce just doesn't see any pro play at all going into next year. But that's kind of where I was like speculating. I'm like, which org is actually going to want to take the risk of relying on him as a star? Or do you just try and sign him quietly and just not make a big deal out of it and say, like, hey, we're picking up dev1ce, and let's see how it pans out. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I know what you mean. As in, if I was just like a complete outsider and I had no information, yeah, obviously you worry about the fact that, like, how many months is he going to sit out for? And it's just something indeterminate and vague, like mental health. So the problem is that essentially, as far as I can tell, is until a doctor, which I don't know why they would, or dev1ce himself says mental health problem's over, it's just never over. And as you say, at any moment that genie can be invoked and just happen again. And spoiler, since dev1ce lives in he's now playing for a Swedish team and he lives in Denmark, those are countries which, like I said earlier about they're a nightmare if you have these fucking employees. Like, they're even legally allowed by the law, where the doctors know, for vague things, it is to take months and months and months off. Apparently, if it's more than a certain period of time, it's like a reduced salary and stuff, but you still get money for doing nothing. Still get money for just sitting around. And the problem in that case is that essentially it could be faked, couldn't it? We're not saying it is, but it could be. And if it could be, spoiler, as the coach book should show you, in esports, people will do anything they fucking want to win and get money. They have no morals, they have no principles. It's just, can you stop them and can you police them? And so since this by definition cannot be policed, yeah, I have a concern not just about device, but the bigger world, by the way, mate. Like, by the way, Simple himself almost just did this. He was about to take his little break. I think that'll become a common trend, mate. Except here's the thing, fans. It won't happen when the team's actually really good. No, what happens is the second it's like a team they don't like, or they're having a bad slump of results, then instead of sitting around and taking all the criticism, you'll just see these stars just whip off for 3 months, fuck off to the Maldives, even probably some of them in little consoles, play FPL in the background, have fun with their mates. They'll get half their salary, or if they're really lucky, their whole salary, like I imagine Simple probably did, and then they'll just come back whenever they feel like it, and they'll play God with more of people's money. So here's the issue I have with this topic, right? I actually don't worry about that in this sense, because here's how I speculate and put together the pieces. First of all, unless I somehow knew from a source within NIP that dev1ce like explicitly refused to come back to the lineup, maybe even had some sentiment of like, the players aren't good enough for me, or this wasn't what I was promised. If he did that, Semmler, and I heard that in the industry, and yeah, if I'm another org, maybe I just let you take him. You take the gamble. I'm not gonna risk he does that to me. But I haven't got that vibe. Like, if I had to guess personally, remember what I said previously when we reported, I was told this, that dev1ce and Valde go to Astralis, whereas instead all these Valde went to ENCE, and now maybe dev1ce goes elsewhere, which is the key point of the story. It's not just Astralis, that's the destination. The thing is, when I reported that information, I didn't report it, I just heard it, right? When I heard that information and reported it to you, people who watch this show, my point is, and this is a key element, where was I going with this? Wait there a second. Let me just think. What was the point I was trying to make there? Let me think. Oh, that was right. One of the reasons I was told he definitely goes back to us, because I was saying to them, like, come on, bro, why is he going back to Astralis? I want to go to another team. They told me not only did he want to be back in Denmark, but the other detail was that even though it was denied, it was pretended it was coincidental. The only reason he joined NIP was that fucking influencer, Amelia Holt, who was his public girlfriend. Yes. They told me for real that was the only reason, and that was maybe even like some sort of like save the relationship bold move, and that cause it blew up in his face like a month later or something, that from a month within, he obviously was feeling down and feeling depressed and feeling like, why am I here and why did I give that up? Exactly. So the problem with that is I can totally see how that could affect your mental health. Remember, the other thing people forget with dev1ce, which you do always have to shade in, is he does have that get right style, like problem with his bowels or some sort of digestion problem, which that wrecks those guys when they're in periods of stress, if you don't know. So I can imagine around the major, he's probably super stressed out about NIP not being as good as they should be at the major, and they're in Sweden and all. Also, remember, they almost didn't make the major. They almost failed in the fucking round of 8, if you remember that match. So there's a million factors I could say did stress him and would make this so that, like, unlike other circumstances, here's the difference, Semmler. If I sign him now, he hasn't got that girl problem. He's not coming to my country to play because there's a, so in my opinion, I could look at it and say, maybe I'm different, because I think personally, this is the ultimate time to sign dev1ce. He's had all the time off he needs. He's also, by the way, a player, this is something else people don't mention, who never had time off before, except back in like 2017 when he was, that time he was really ill. People forget this, Semmler. Even though he's the guy who has the condition that like flares up every now and then, he wasn't the guy in 2020 who took the breaks. That was Glaven Zipniks. He stayed in the lineup, losing with Juggy and all those fucking guys. He was playing with Essetag when they won Pro League, etc., without Glaven and all that. Mate, this guy never took his breaks. So I also get why when he finally gets his break, he's like, you know what, actually, if I come back, it's not going to win in a major. Fuck it, my break goes as long as I need to. It's keeping going then. Because maybe, by the way, there was also maybe an element of that. If you're a player like dev1ce, I've always thought personally, he doesn't understand that being in Astralis your whole career with that core is like having the silver spoon in your mouth. You don't know how bad it can get, mate. You always think you just rebound and go to the top again. Well, here's the problem. When he comes to NIP, and like that lineup he was in functionally was capped. It wasn't going to win a major. It wasn't going to win big tournaments. It needed big changes like an IGL, another piece. In that scenario, maybe he did just think, right, well, now that I know I'm not here for the other reason, well, fuck, I don't want to be here for this team. So I'll tell you what, upgrade the team and maybe I'll join. Maybe they wouldn't want to. Maybe they don't want to make the moves he wants to make. Who the fuck knows? So my problem is, I personally think, one, because he's been so consistent over his career, I'm not worried about his skill level. I think he'll get his skill level back in a month or two. I bet if he starts playing again, in 3 months after playing, he's as good as he ever was. I would say that would happen. So I actually think, bearing in mind, he speaks amazing English and is incredibly decorated and a super smart AWPer. I think he's a mega player. Like, if I'm some of the big teams in the world, I would be going for this guy. Sounds like they're not. It sounds like it's going to be and there's the one last detail to mention. I don't know if it's actually dev1ce's fault that he's been out the last few months. Because remember, it was back in May when I said the story about maybe he goes to Astralis. It's now August. You know what that suggests to me? Well, think of the Astralis story we talked about earlier. I don't think Astralis wants to spend millions, mate. I think they definitely don't want to spend what Nip gave them. Dude, that was like 600k.
That's gone. That's gone. They don't have that anymore.
Yeah, so if I had to guess, I would guess they either were trying to nickel and dime, as Nick and Lihome would, trying to nickel and dime Nip, or they just couldn't get the money together that Nip wanted. Like, remember, Nip's just bought Brawl on as well. I imagine Nip wants some fucking money for dev1ce, so just want to give him away for free. So if I had to guess, it sounds to me, if you put it all together, like maybe Astralis isn't the team, and maybe he's going to wherever someone will pay him.
There was actually a really cool tweet, and I think I saw you interact with it as well, where some guy was kind of speculating as to where he could go. And if you were to take Nitro and OC out and put him in Team Liquid on Liquid,
yes,
like what a fucking crazy roster
sick, wouldn't it?
That would be a nuts roster. Elige, Naf, Yakinder, dev1ce, and Alexi B on Liquid. Like, that would be the power play.
Dude, that can win tournaments, that lineup. Yeah, that's legit.
Liquid have got the money as well to make that kind of play happen. So that could be some speculation. I mean, I think you're bang on the money, my dude. I think you're really there. Because, like, you have to keep in mind, like, there is some stuff that it seems like we know. There's also stuff that's just pure speculation as to what's going on in the background or, like, what led to all this. But what we do seem to know is that, yes, it was, like, he, you know, it may very well be exactly as you describe it, where he made the play as some hero saver, like relationship saving move. It blew up in his face, and then he finds himself in Stockholm alone, you know, on a team that he doesn't want to be on, and it's just at that point, you know, total disaster, and it all falls apart. And then maybe by that point, you know, it's like Nipper they've already moved on. They've got a roster. Hampus keeps coming on in interviews saying like, "Hey, listen, we're happy with this roster. We want to make it work." And all of a sudden, there's just no room for him to get back onto the main roster anymore. And you got to think about how to move him around. And maybe get some of that money back. $600,000, you know, for the asking price. It seems like to get dev1ce off of his contract or to get him onto your team. I mean, we were talking about that for a while, that he may join Astralis, but like the other one that was kind of floating around. I don't know if there's anything to it. Well, no, I don't know. It's just pure speculation. But like, imagine putting Cadian on a rifle role and bringing him onto Heroic and adding an actual Opera onto Heroic. Seeing if that could actually...
This is one of those areas I really wonder about fans. Because you know what? I've mentioned that a million times. The best Danish team is Heroic. So why isn't dev1ce joining Heroic? They need a fucking AWPer. And every time, Simple, this is how boring fans are, Semmler. They all just go, yeah, but Cadian's the AWPer. Engage your brain. Why doesn't he just swap role and just be the IGL? Like, I don't get that, mate. You don't think Cadian could just beat Frag at the level of a support player and just be the IGL? Of course he could. The joke is he might even be like one of the better fragging IGLs with a rifle if he does that. His problem right now is he's not a good enough AWPer, and he seems like a good enough IGL, but not if he also AWPs. So the point is, bringing dev1ce to AWP, and then the one weakness of Cadian goes out the window, doesn't it? Immediately the team becomes really dangerous. Imagine their teammate with dev1ce, fucking Stown, and Tessus, and then Cadian's just like a supportive IGL. Fucking hell, mate. Like, we've already got the firepower. Like, that, I would do that move tomorrow. I don't even know what... Like, if that's one of those moves where the only person who might turn that down is whoever's getting kicked. That's about it. Surely even Cadian says yes to that, you know.
Yeah, that's basically it. And you know that Cadian is going to do whatever he can to make sure that they're winning. So I think
I even think he would do it if he got the offer, yeah.
I think so too. I think Cadian, that would be an offer that he would be thinking about it. I mean, dev1ce is not in Copenhagen now, right? He's not in Stockholm anymore. He's down in Copenhagen. That's where everybody is who's anybody in the Danish scene. And like all those teams, they're all based out of Copenhagen. So I mean, like, he could very well be hanging out with those players in off time and, you know, mixing in with the scene, and then you see where it goes from there. It's just interesting, and it's like, finally we get at least a little bit of something to work with here on the dev1ce front, because it's just been nothing but speculation for months now. So now at least we have a little bit of something that, you know, okay, if it's true Nip are actually trying to shop him out, it's like, okay, so it looks like we won't be seeing a return before.
Oh, by the way, here's the other angle I can't handle. This is where people are just losers in life, Semmler. You know, the people who will go like, yeah, but why would we sign dev1ce? He's been out for 8 months. Why would you sign Alexi B? He just failed with G2. Why the fuck would they join your team if they were the best in the world, you imbecile? If like Alexi B was Carrigan, why would he join Team Liquid? If fucking dev1ce was Simple, why would he join Team Liquid? You imbecile. If you are broke, you can only buy something that is on offer, that has discount, that is cheap. So what I'm saying here, you imbeciles, is these players are too good for Team Liquid. So the point is you have to get them when their stock's low. That's how you fucking buy right and winning the stock market, isn't it? Like, these guys don't get it, mate. Because I've had the same argument told me, by the way, I'll rewind this. This is the argument that stopped teams, except Mouse Sports, signing Carrigan. North, Team Liquid, you know what they all said? Well, they signed him. Didn't he just fail in phase? You fucking clowns. You imbecile. So what you're saying is the second best Lamborghini to ever be made was on sale and you didn't buy it because if it's on sale, it's probably not very good. Like, you fucking clowns. You'll never know what a GM's job is if you really think that. You like, I don't even know why you have a take. It's just shit, isn't it? It's just fucking garbage.
It's just the way it is, dude. Everybody's got a take. It's all good.
It is. And also, here's the thing, though. Just get those shit posts and put them in our comment section of this video. Help the algorithm. There you go. I found a way to make it good in the end.
There you go. We're just going to gather them up together one of these days, and maybe we'll do an episode just where we're covering comments. Fuck it.
Oh, we should do. Because here's the thing. Richard's done a few of those, and they're fucking hilarious. Because you can imagine how mad the comments are on YouTube. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then. Or, be a pleb and don't.